Hi, Anthony Alvarado. It is amazing to see you today. Thank you for saying
Yes, it's
yes.
amazing to be seen. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's been such a long time.
It has been such a long time, and I feel like you and your wife are just family to me.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you.
In the sober community, I just think that there's sometimes just an automatic connection. And I was on your podcast a long time
Yeah,
ago, and
exactly.
have just seen the transformative experience you guys have had in your lives. And I guess
Yeah.
that's what I want to start. I mean, I honor your work first and foremost.
Thank you.
Um, as the co-founder of Rise Together. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess that's if we can start there. I mean, you're
You can
making a
start into it. I mean, first
national.
and foremost, yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I mean, honestly, I never thought I would continue this work as long as I have, but I've been doing community-driven work for the last 15 years. And, for somebody that grew up in, Wisconsin, in the Midwest, and having this like little idea when I was in third grade, I can remember it like, oh man, I'm gonna go and change the world, you know what I mean? And growing up, I saw little bits of that in like art and the connection that I had with people, but with so many,
Mhm.
sometimes you grow up and the world kind of changes you. And I've definitely have had that experience over the last 5 years. And to be asked to come back out and share my story recently in the Beyond podcast, I just want to start this off with saying thank you. Here I am, so many years later in recovery, so many years later in the work. And the work continues to evolve, and so does my story of recovery. So, to be able to share a little bit about that today, I was just on a podcast last week talking about corporate wellness and just workplace mental health, and really diving into more of the coaching side of what I do. But in short, if you don't know who I am, Anthony Alvarado, yes, person long-term recovery. Yes, I am a dad of three awesome children. I have an almost 21-year-old daughter, which is mind-blowing all in itself, back home in Wisconsin, living her whole adult life. And I'm down here in Florida. We recently moved. The other part of our family, me and Nadine, who got engaged like just recently, had a baby and said, hey, let's start with this year with really going forward on our dreams and the goals that we used to write down in behind closed doors, like when we used to like sit up at night and say, "Hey, what does Anthony and Nadine want to accomplish?"
Mhm.
And we finally have found some space to honor that part of our journey right now. And that's exactly where we are, is saying, "Hey, let's put our story first. Let's put our recovery first. Let's put our faith first. Let's put our roles as being parents first and really grasp onto those dreams because like my story, right? Like my shirt says, tomorrow is not promised." And that's the truth. And I've lost a lot of friends and a lot of family members. And even recently, we've gone through some pains as we've lost some people back at home. And I think about, my story and almost losing my life to my own, struggles with mental health over the last 5 years. And I've been sharing about that, right? So,
Yeah,
um, the background is I had a lot of pain growing up and I had experienced a lot of trauma, sure. Um, there's a lot of abuse in the home, a lot of substance use in the home, a lot of substance misuse. And I was that kid that was like, I'm never going to, right? I'm never going to do the thing. And, life got super complicated growing up when my parents got divorced. And, I started to see things in the home like physical abuse, like mental and verbal abuse, at a very high traumatic level. And that shook me to my core. And I first lost my voice in that pain, in that misery, as I watched my parents, which I now know who are struggling with the disease of addiction, who I now know were struggling with mental health. But back then, I just thought, wow, what a chaos, what a mess. And
sure.
so to deal with the pain and the hurt that I was seeing and experiencing myself growing up, I covered and I band-aided and I hid and I put on the masks and I continued to go out with a chip on my shoulder growing up in that early 2000s, 90s kid, just not talking about my stuff, not talking about my mess, right? And as a young man growing up, I eventually remained silent. And that silence kept me sick for so many years. And I coped with everything I possibly could inject or put into my body. And yes, that led to injection, somewhat, but I mean, it doesn't really matter what the substance was
No.
or what the ailment was. It was I was founding an addiction to the things around me because that's the way I learned to cope. That's what was being modeled is to cover up. So yeah, it might be a little bit of anomaly back then. You're talking 20 plus years ago that I was even in high school. And so yeah, I'm getting a little bit older at 41, but I know deep down inside, like my recovery is the foundation of why I live and able to breathe today. And if I wasn't taking good care of myself right now, I
Hmm.
wouldn't even be on this podcast. And so my stories helped me become the version that I am today. And I'm still growing and I'm still learning and I'm
Hmm.
still healing, Kelly. I mean, gosh, I mean, every metric, every piece of data, in some ways, every number tells a story. And that statistic, like even when I was growing up in recovery, seeing my peers going in and out,
Hmm.
and lose some friends and lose some family members, and then finally get together with people in recovery back in 2013 and say, like, enough's enough, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna rise, we're gonna come together, we're gonna kick down doors and advocate for change. We had no idea what we were doing, but back then, we're coming up on our 12-year Angel anniversary right now. I mean, I think about that story and just saying, hey, like, no, like recovery is also part of the message. Hope is also part of the message. And you should hear individuals thriving too, because
Yeah.
that is part of the reality. While
Hmm.
we're losing people to overdose, while we're losing people to suicide, while we're losing people to some crises in our community, disconnections at its core. And so for me, the work has been really the work that I've been doing on me.
Yeah.
And that has transcended to the work that I do to get paid and to make a living, right? And that is in speaking and coaching and the nonprofit work that I do. And so,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, now it's like, holy man, 12 years later, 300,000 plus youth, we go into communities and we help young people find their voice. And I remember losing mine back then. And so to help meet people where they're at, no matter what they're experiencing, no matter what they're going through, knowing that, hey, you are loved, you are seen, and yes, you are heard. And in this space, maybe, just maybe, you can ask for help for the very first time. Maybe you can take action because you know what's happening in your schools
Mhm.
isn't right. Maybe at a young level, you can start to make change and not wait so long like so many of us have. I
Mhm.
mean, by the time I was 24, I almost lost my life. I almost gave up on my life because I wanted nothing more than the pain to stop. It's not that I didn't want to live, I just was sick of living how I was living. You
Mhm.
hear me?
Mhm.
And so when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, dude, you just want to like, that's enough. I'm done. Arms in. And
Anthony,
if it
I'm
works,
like, amen. I mean,
yes.
I feel it in my soul. And when we logged on,
Yes.
I was
I just
just,
got the chills.
that's
Yeah.
it. I mean, just like overwhelmed, tears of joy, tears of awe, just having seen your transformation and that you are the living message of recovery and how much hope you bring to young people and old people like ourselves too, is just like when you're called to do this work and it just radiates through
Oh
you.
man, people have been lighting me up like you wouldn't believe. I'm gonna tell you what, in 2020, and for the audience that's listening
Yeah.
in, my life changed. I mean, yes, the work was great. Rise Together was like moving and thriving. We started this grassroots movement out of Appleton, Wisconsin. We went off, we like spoke on street corners, parking lots, back of buses. We're kicking down doors of the state capitol, nation's capital. We're flying across the country. We're speaking in front of hundreds of thousands of youth over the last 12 years. We're driving programmatic change. We're leading like evidence-based initiatives with Penn State College of Medicine and showing what the difference is between the youth that we're serving today and their voice is really helping us lead a movement. And
Mhm.
that's awesome. And it's
Mhm.
so good. And I started that because I wanted to create a healthier Appleton for my children to grow up in. And being in recovery too, like I try to lead at home and
Mm.
man, growing up, I I experimented a lot with my parents. I mean, my parents were pretty lost and they're also pretty young. And so when I look back at those moments, some of it's innocent, but it doesn't sound too innocent. Like my mom gave my first line of cocaine. My dad shot me up for the first time by the time I was 19. They taught me how to use drugs and deal drugs. And that was just like kind of the way we did things, right? And I lived in a little like Ripon, Wisconsin, but for whatever it's worth, we were doing that stuff there. And so it seemed like an anomaly. And so for me to go home and ask for help or to go to my friends and ask for guidance, it just didn't seem even like a conversation that I could have,
Sure.
right?
Hmm.
And so when I struggled and then I came out this other side and step into help, I think about my son Gavin a lot, especially lately. And it was him that came up to me in those early years when I was 24 years old and he was only like 5. And I remember being in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, smoking my last cigarette and not in recovery and thinking about ending my life. And it was him that made that connection. It was him that understood empathy and compassion. And it was him that came forward that day and took that step and put his hands on my face and looked me in the eyes and squeezed my cheeks and said, Dad, I don't want you to die.
Oh
I
my
love you.
gosh.
And if a 5-year-old little baby boy can do that, think of what we can do as adults. And in that moment, I was reminded of everything I never wanted to be, never wanted to become. I was becoming everything that my dad was, and maybe even more so. And those are things that I said for sure I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And yet I was not around. I was not present. I was not available to him. And he was growing up as this 5-year-old just saying, Hey, Dad, I love you.
Yeah.
And I'm
And we
here.
repeat the cycle of addiction
Right.
until we
And
break it.
so so many years later, that same little boy that saved my life, I didn't know would go through similar challenges at 17 years old and to be lost and to be conflicted at home and to be conflicted at school and to be going through hardship and just normal stuff too as a
Oh yeah.
teenager, like school, junior year
Yep.
already, right?
Yeah.
Like junior year's that hard year, but he was coming back and like doing the best he's ever done. But within months, I watched him spiral. It's like so many young people during COVID,
Yeah.
watching him go from one of the best years to like overwhelm and stress, just like many students that I serve
Mhm.
today. Not feeling like he has the ability to manage maybe the depression that he's experiencing, anxiety that he's experiencing, even though maybe it was new for him in just moments. He told me himself he wasn't ready to ask for help and
Mm.
then to go to school and to be reminded of why he wasn't maybe good enough, right? And eventually to get kicked out of school and have to go to an alternative program, and then to go through a breakup and then have some problems at home with mom and dad. And
Mhm.
then, just it quickly spiraled. And before you know it, like so many young people, he ran. And during COVID, during isolation, and during, a complete community lockdown, he said, no, I'm not going to stay, in one space. And he continued to go out and kind of make way. And he was 17, also kind of saying, like, I can do this.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, you know, in May of, you know, 2020, I got the worst call that I could ever receive. I watched my son struggle for, months, and he's always struggled in school, and he always was kind of needing additional support. And I was always trying to put so much into him and pour as much as I possibly could and model as much as I possibly could. To the point where maybe if I were to do it again, I probably would dial it back a little bit. But
Mm.
man, just a loving parent,
Oh.
not wanting him to repeat the pattern that I once led or that so many people in my family has led for generations. And so we poured into him, but man, it was May 17 of 2020. We got a call. It was the Sunday, it was after church. And I remember having this call with my brother-in-law and said something like, Hey, how are your kids doing? And my daughter at that time went through something significant. And Gavyn was also going through something significant. And I said, my kids are going to be okay. We're coming together as a family. And if anything, like this is what families go through. We're going through a season of challenge, a season of struggle, a
Mhm.
season of hardship. But
Mhm.
together we're figuring it out. And, especially Gavyn, I think it's going to take him some time, but he's like his father. He's going to be okay. And then I turned my phone on that day and I had these like just constant messages coming through. You see, Kelly, I never turn my phone off at church. I never turn my phone off, period. It's always on because I have kids.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I just wanted like the mess that was up in here to stop for a moment so I could find clarity and strength in the faith that I was trying to find. at church.
Mhm.
And then to turn my phone on, like in movies, when you see somebody go through a tragedy and they like swallow really hard because they know something really terrible has happened, they don't know what happened yet. That's what happened that day. And I saw the messages like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I just got really sick to my stomach and I called somebody and they're like, I'm so sorry about Gavyn. And they broke down, they couldn't even say anything else. And I was like, this can't be true. I was just like spiraling out of control. And sure enough, I called the coroner and the coroner said, I'm so sorry, Miss Alvarado, but your son has passed away from an overdose. And that Sunday afternoon changed the rest of our lives. And granted, there's so many parents and so many families that are going through this right now, but we're 5 years in and it feels like it was yesterday. And gosh, I miss that kid. He was like a light when he walked into the room and he was so cool and so amazing. But that night, on a Saturday night, like so many high school kids, he went to a party. He took a Percocet that was mixed with fentanyl. He went to sleep that night on a couch at a friend's house beneath a Kurt Cobain poster of all things. And he fell asleep on his stomach and he never woke up. And it's just like, wow. He stopped breathing because of the fentanyl. And
Mm.
oof, we've been picking up pieces ever since. And so I appreciate all the stuff that people say, but our family's still going through it. And I watch so many other families go through it. And so for me, people have been inviting me and showing light into me and saying, hey, maybe, just maybe you can find some healing and some purpose and some meaning in this. And I was so angry when people first told me that. And I
Mhm.
was so frustrated because I knew, like deep down in my heart, I knew the things. Like as a provider, as an educator, as a coach, as a facilitator, I'm like, but how can this be true? Like even from a Rise Together perspective, I'm like, man, I've been 16 years in recovery now. I've
Yeah.
been doing this work for several years. Usually people lose children and then they go start the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, my son
Yeah.
would be at the candlelight visual, holding the candle, telling jokes, but also holding the candle for those that we have lost. I
Yeah.
have pictures of him making the funny faces at the thing with the moms that lost the children. He used to sit with the moms at dinner that lost children. They would pour into him. And
Yeah.
he would watch those moms speak from stage while we were growing up and doing this work across the country. And yeah, I could say things like, yeah, 80% of the students that we face today and we serve today are less likely to use drugs and alcohol after sharing our story with them. And 85% of the students that we serve are more likely to ask for help after hearing a Rise Together presentation, but it wasn't happening at home. And somebody came up to me early, and regardless, grief is complicated, so I don't hold this against them, but they're like, you could save a lot of children, but you couldn't save your own. And it was like one of those things where it was like a dagger.
Yeah.
But I also held on to that a little bit. And it has me thinking about things differently. Not that comment necessarily, but I've thought those things way before it was ever said. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Like to know that I'm a father trying to pour into this kid, to pour into my children, to change and break the cycle of addiction in my family, and to lose a child on top of it after doing all this work, it just didn't make sense to me, Kelly. So to kind of wrap this conversation up, the last 5 years is like just a healing journey. It's a grieving journey. It's a new journey. It doesn't feel awesome. It's raw and it's intense. And I definitely have made mistakes along the way. And I haven't showed up 100% in my work or 100% at my job or the
Mm.
other things I've had to, take care of, being a parent, being a new dad. All these are exciting, even being a significant other. What I am right now on a journey of who is Anthony, not the dad,
Sure.
not the Rise Together guy, not this dude that is doing the stuff with photography or this guy that looks cool with this classic car or whatever I like.
Yeah.
No, who's me? And then, yeah, healing that inner child and going through those steps. And what does that have me doing? Coaching others up. And so now I've taken this immense amount of experience and I said, I don't like building up necessarily business. I love building up people. And if I can do that for the rest of my life through my nonprofit work, through my photography, through my coaching, we're good. And I'm starting to find very, very, very early healing and hope in losing a child. And it does have me more curious about life. It has me questioning, even though I've done extensive, like we have 5 academic papers coming out, or almost completely have come out with Penn State, it talks about mental health literacy and substance use literacy. It talks about the power of peer support, the power of adult stakeholders in the room with young people, the power of youth voices making change and advocacy. Like that research, I'm so excited about. And it has me ignited and saying, okay, peers matter. Youth voices matter.
Mhm.
Spaces like this to create connection absolutely matter because I have met so many families and
Mhm.
I meet so many young people still to this day that are saying, thank you for listening to me for the first time. Thank you for hearing my story. Thank you for letting me be seen. Thank you for not judging me. And
Mhm.
I think that's a lot more of what our world needs today is
Mhm.
that non-judgmental attitude to build connection, to build support, regardless of who we're supporting. There's people out there that are in pain, especially young men like
Mhm.
myself, Granted, I feel like I'm pretty healthy. I do have to say it's not all doom and gloom. I woke up today and my Whoop health metric was like, hey, just want to let you know you might be 41, but you're technically 35 because you're killing it with your health.
Okay.
And so I'm like,
Surfing, meditation.
oh,
I hear you're
I guess
sleeping a
those
little
daily
off.
steps, hydration, self-care, recovery do matter. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, I am 35. Thank you very much. I'm not going on 42. Woo!
Well,
You
and
know, so
you're chasing an almost 2-year-old around on top of it, so
dude,
you got to
dude,
stay
I got
young and
steps in. I got steps in. I forget. Like my son would be turning like 22 years old. He would have been turned 22 right when I moved here 3 months ago. Like right when I got here, the first event, I just posted a little clip about it, is like he would have turned 22 and we're celebrating 5 years since he's been gone. I'm like, how is that even possible? I had a kid when I was like 19 years old. I was growing up when he was growing up. Let's
yeah,
be honest.
yeah, yeah.
And to have Jay like turning 21 this next year, I'm turning 42 this next year. That little guy though is turning 2 later this year. He just turned 21 months. And wow, what a gift. Like losing a child's one thing and then saying, I'm never going to be a parent, I'm never going to step on stage again. And then now to like go against that completely and just walk into faith when I don't have all the answers and say yes
Mm,
and not to be scared again and to love again and to lean in again and say, I am a good father. I am a good leader. I am a good person. Yes, I've made some mistakes. Yes, we've gone through some tragedy, but I am good enough.
mm.
And to show up for him differently with all the stuff and say, I'm here for you. This is your story. This is a new story. This is a fresh start. Thank you, God. Thank you, God.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anybody else in your family in recovery?
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you what, when I first got into recovery, it was kind of like people were like, oh, okay. I see what you're doing. You moved to a different city. Now you're too good to go out and drink and
Hmm.
party, stay up for days. I was like, yes, yes, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. But with that being said, many years later, like whether it was an inspiration or just their own journey completely by themselves, I watched so many friends and family members jump into recovery. Like when I didn't have a really connection with my father, but the strongest connection I did have with him was in the 2 years that he was in recovery before he got sick from alcoholism, before he passed away in 2018. Like,
Hmm.
like losing a father, like there was moments like growing up where I was like, oh, I hear you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
eventually we found a place to connect and recover, and that was beautiful. My mom, she's been in and out of recovery. She struggles with her mental health. I hope she doesn't hear me saying that out loud, but she's been, obviously going into her own recovery journey and doing her thing. And I have other family members, my cousins and stuff,
Yeah.
thriving in recovery or sobriety or walking their journey of moderation, even.
Hmm.
There's some good things happening with pathways of recovery. And I'm glad that people are finding them and saying, hey, I'm going to take a step forward to at least being a healthier version of myself. And let's not forget the family here. You know what I mean? Like Nadine and I rocking and rolling and going out there and now lighting up other adults and saying, hey, like this is how we can take better care of ourselves to show up at home and in the boardroom. How
Is
cool
this
is
is
that?
this the Salt and Soil that you guys just launched?
Yeah, so we thought, ever since I've been young, people have always shared their story with me. Ever since I can remember, like people, like I cannot tell you. Well, I can't tell you because I'm telling you right now, but people will literally say, like, all the time. I will watch people say, "Ah, man, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. It doesn't matter if it's my doctor, my Uber driver, like somebody I just met on the street, they're like, blah, you
It's
know?
your
And so
energy.
like
Come on.
that's like I'm like that grounding force,
Yes.
right? Like I've
Yes.
always been that. And with Nadine, she has that power to hold space. And we've been doing this together for so long now. And we thought, wouldn't it be unique to work with adults? And wouldn't it be unique to help the creatives, the people that are going out and making change, the storytellers, the poets, the other entrepreneurs that look and talk like us, you,
Mhm.
to maybe journey, to take a moment to rest, to refocus, to pause, and to take care of self and do that through intentional healing, body movement, practice, learning about the practices that not only have helped us get here, but the practices that we're learning right now in this journey and doing it together as a community. Salt and Soil is born. And yeah, we're close to the beach. I'm like 15 miles away from the beach right now. You know what I mean? Like this is a dream come true. So of course I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm out there surfing. I'm taking tons of photos. I'm hooking up with other people that love wellness, and we're doing it together. And we're doing it in fun ways. We're going to do it through dance, and we're going to do it through food and coming together through dinner and just saying, hey, you want to retreat? Come with us. And there's tons of people doing stuff like this. But Nadine and I, we are coming closer to working together. And I think that's because we're becoming better and better at letting ourselves thrive individually. Yeah. And
Wow.
so
Uh-huh.
we've been giving each other space to go do our
Mhm.
thing. I've been
Mhm.
running with my camera. She's been running with Salt and Soil. And now she's about to drop her book. I'm launching these big photo projects that are turning into murals, raising awareness around those that have lost children to overdose with my
Mm.
Unbroken project. I'm telling you what, Kelly, as soon as I stopped waiting for permission from somebody else and I started leaning into what God gave me and the things that I've always believed in, the things that I know that light me up, my life's changed. Does that mean it's perfect? No. I've experienced the craziest amount of depression over the last 90 days, but with the change and the shift and celebration of Gavyn,
Mhm.
it's a lot. It's a wave, right? And so
Yeah,
we're learning,
absolutely.
we're learning with the wave, just like back at home, like when we do rock climbing and do intentional healing through rock climbing with other adults, you're not moving the rock. You're not moving the weight. And so when the chaos of life comes your way, it's better to learn how to ride it out. And that's what we're teaching people to do through Salt and Soil.
Fuck. I mean, I'm speechless.
So we'll see you this next year at some point. I can
Oh
already
my
tell.
gosh, bring me to Florida. I'll drive in
Yes.
February from Chicago.
Yes. And now people from Florida too, because it's so hot here during the summer. Like right now, we're having record temps like 50 years in Tampa, like record temps, 120-degree index, 115 out here on the coast on this site because there's a little bit of a breeze. But honestly, like we'll probably come back to the Midwest too, because people here are like, bring me somewhere cooler. And
Sure,
so who
sure.
knows, man? We'll come back
So
up
maybe
there. I
you
mean, we got
guys will travel similarly as you continue to
exactly.
present and share your story and create retreats in different parts of the country.
Exactly, because I'm passing the baton to the next people. There's people stepping up with Rise and saying, I want to lead change. I want to do something. I want to create. And so I'm training people to do the thing. I'm training the next group of leaders. And as we enter into our 12th year, we come up on Rise 12 in Appleton. We got this big concert. We have a headliner coming from Chicago, FemDot. He's doing all kinds of awesome stuff with youth in the Chicagoland area, working through De La Creme and helping kids, inner city kids, with scholarship programs to get to college. Now we're combining his hip hop talent and bringing it to the stage in Appleton, along with Cody Green, who's from the Wisconsin area. He has over 1 million followers on TikTok right now, talking about mental health, doing comedy stand up with us. And for the first time ever, I'm doing a spoken word like collab with Lifted Poets Society. So I'm doing it over music. I've been doing speaking and community driven stuff for 15 years. I could continue to do the same thing or I could continue to grow. So I'm going to push myself to grow, and we're going to do a collab about basically it's called No Sleep to Madness. And so a lot of what I struggle with is insomnia. And so that keeps me up at night. And some of the hardest places that I ever experience are in the middle of the night. And sometimes I
Mm,
don't sleep. I get
mm,
less than 4 hours of sleep and I'm just my brain just does not stop. So
Sure.
we're going to talk a lot about that in that. And then Nadine is actually doing a book reading because she's dropping her book later this year. And so it'll be one of the first times you're ever going to hear that. And so we're super pumped. I could talk about all the things, but I
Oh
think
my gosh.
like,
Well, and I will post all the links to all the wonderful things
yes,
you guys are doing in the show notes. And I will need to interview Nadine when her
yes,
book drops
100%.
too and promote that because you guys are just beacons of hope. And
Thank you.
especially where we're at right now in the world, this
Yeah.
just needs to explode. And your message just is a ripple effect. And I can't help but feel from head to toe so empowered and
Thank you.
just moved to tears. I really am.
Um,
I can't believe what.
Well, I moved. I'm glad that you're moved because to be honest with you, this feels like early days rise. This feels like other projects I've started where it's like, ooh, there's something special here. There's something
Yeah.
in the water, right? Literally, like it's moving us, it's
Mhm.
moving others, and it's inspiring people to take their own journeys, even just outside of what we're doing. So, we need people to show up today. We need people to rise today. We need people to, yeah, show up for the next generation. But what I tell people, parents, leaders, doesn't matter where they're sitting, it's like, how are you taking good care of yourself? And what's your why? Why are you showing up? And so to coach people to success is one thing, but to hear people share their story for the first time and to find some hope when they felt alone, man, that's what I've been doing for so long. And I'm just happy to get the opportunity to do this today. So thank you for having me. It's been really awesome.
Yeah, and thank you for saying yes. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And uh, Gavyn is a God wink through you. The
Oh, yeah.
way that you carry on his message, his light, and just his memory is so beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm putting the stickers up everywhere. I talk about them always. It's unashamed here. It's hard to talk about, of course, those that we lost, especially children. But my idea is that, the stories, the love that we had for him, that's how we keep his story alive. So why not talk about him? Why not share that light that he shared? Because who else is going to? One, but also like that's what made him so special. And it comes bleeding through me. And if it wasn't for his story, I don't know where I'd be right now. That kid is something powerful, and he lived his time while he was here, and he still is making a change, not only in me, but his friends, especially. And
Mhm.
um, it's really cool to see. It's really
Awesome.
cool.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So
Yes.
good to see you.
Thank you so much. So good to see you. Thank you.
You're welcome.